Welcome in to the Motivation Congregation podcast. And we got something different going on today. It's not your regular scheduled programming, not a short Mussar talk with some music in the background, but more of a Halacha discussion with the help of Hashem concluding with a practical takeaway and a Mussar idea. Now, this episode is a bonus episode and really came about just through some honest curiosity. Most of you may not even know exactly what the context of this episode and the ideas discussed therein are all about. But either way, I bet that you'll find these conclusions to be rather surprising, to say the least. And stick around for the conclusion that will be something that could help us to steer clear of some roadblocks and stumbling blocks in the future. Now, today's topic, being that it is Monday, October 30th, 2023, is Halloween in Halacha. Now, most of y'all may not even know what Halloween is. But if you live in the certain out-of-town communities of the world, or maybe you grew up in Virginia, you'll know a bit, at least you thought, about what Halloween is. If you maybe grew up in Lakewood or Flatbush, maybe not so much. So what is Halloween? Why is it celebrated? Is there any halachic prohibitions in trick-or-treating? If you decide to put your costume on tonight, is there a halachic issue? While it may not be entirely practical, we do live amongst the non-Jews. Is there anything that we should be aware of about the nature of Halloween and how it coincides with the holy halacha? Would a person violate a prohibition, maybe a biblical or rabbinic prohibition, by merely knocking on a door tomorrow night and asking for some candy? Or maybe just putting on your old sweaty and wine-stained Purim costume and going for round 2 tomorrow night? So first things first, a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm not a rabbi, and I do not have any halacha knowledge background, and definitely not in how to paskin and bring the different opinions to the modern day. So one should definitely seek the advice and counsel of their local Orthodox rabbi, but here is just one man's research and findings about the topic. Now, first, let's discuss what could be a halachic issue with all of this. Number one, there's actually something called Darchei Emori, which is a prohibition that we find many times to be discussed inside of the Gemara, where Shulchan Aruch actually brings it down la halacha, where the Amorites, the Emorim, would engage in certain silly superstitions, it seems, or certain sayings, or create certain potions, or doing certain actions, and it is forbidden for us to mimic their ways. There is a bit of some ambiguity as to what the real reason is, what's the underlying and underpinnings of this transgression and following the Emorites. The Beis Yosef brings from the Smag that it really is twofold, that it could be based on sorcery, because it was well known that sorcery and witchcraft was widespread in the world of the Emorim. So Darchei Emori, maybe that could be an issue with Halloween. Or the Beis Yosef also says that Darchei Emori could be based in the Jewish people ever gratuitously imitating other nations, more along the lines of and following non-Jewish practices. So Darchei Emori, maybe but last but not least, the Ramah Paskins in Yeridea that actually any performance, any following of any custom that is originally originating from any sort of avodah zarah, of service of the spirits of the foreign, alien, made-up gods, even if it isn't still practiced for that reason, but there's the slightest taint, or it is even hard to suspect that this is because of avodah zarah that you are doing and engaging in this practice, still, says the Ramah, this could be an issue, and in fact is an issue of engaging in idolatrous practices. So what's left is to get down to what exactly is going on. What's the celebration? And what is Halloween all about? Is it just a Memorial Day, a time to party? Is that where it came from? Or could it be something more? I discovered that Halloween began some 2,000 years ago in the area and the country of what we know to be as modern-day Ireland, that the ancient Celtic festival of the Samhain nation, I thought it was Samhain, but apparently it's pronounced Samhain, where they would have this sort of festival where they would light bonfires and wear animal skins. And it seems to be because this was the turn of the season, October 31st, where some elements of this crazy sun god is now being put into jail by the winter god. Needless to say that there seems to be some real avodah zarah practices. People were fearful of the souls that were now unleashed from this other world, so they would wear animal skins. And then things got worse when the 18th century Pope Gregory wanted to propagate his All Saints' Day, some sort of day where people would celebrate the deceased. But then, when people could not, or the church could not get rid of the pagan holiday of the original All Hallows' Eve Day, which was that celebration of the Celtic festival, eventually they said, let's just put it all on the same day. So the eve of October 31st, the whole Souls creepy thing, All Hallows, along with the daytime Christian All Saints' Day. Not to mention that the Romans in 43 CE also tried to put in some god named Feralia, some dead yahrzeit weird thing, along with some Pomona god, which was the god of trees. Also, they would celebrate it on that day as something to do with a turning over of the seasons. So it was weird, because it really does seem that the origins of this holiday is from total paganism. I never really thought that we would have some chance to abstain from avodah zarah, like a modern-day Avram Avinu. But it seems that the 31st of October is some quasi-non-Jewish, Gentile, Roman, Christian, Celtic, souls type of death holiday thing. It most definitely would seem, at least on face value, to be some violation of maybe Darchei Emori, but I ain't a rabbi. Or maybe some overstepping the boundaries into Uvechuko Seam Lo Seilechu. And last but not least, one of the big three of avodah zarah. Now, maybe there's some wiggle room because modern day Gentile adherence to Halloween seems to be totally disconnected to any of this. But the Ramah did tell us that even if that is true, it still is an issue. It doesn't seem like a very innocent holiday. It seems like the costumes were to protect from spirits. The trick-or-treating that came in from the Goyish, when the Christians got involved with the Pope and the handing out of free food, people that would promise to do better in the future. It seems very much rooted in idolatry, things that the Jewish people do not stand for, and a violation of Halacha. But then again, check with your local Orthodox rabbi, for there may be some leniency that I'm not aware of. But here we talk about Mussar. We talk about a practical takeaway, and we do believe that one can learn from almost anything. No, we do believe that one can learn from anything. And in this situation, the takeaway seems pretty straightforward and glaring. That I imagine that most Gentiles, most non-Jews, don't even understand or know what exactly they are celebrating. And that's takeaway number one. Which that it's very possible to engage in behavior, to be excited, but have absolutely no idea what you're doing. And that's something for us to learn, that maybe we should be more well-educated about our own festivals. And furthermore, it's unbelievable that a person will never question why something's happening if things are going his way. When the goodies are falling from the heavens, when there's free candy and it's a free day off of work and it's time to party, nobody seems to want to put an end to that or even think about if it is right or wrong. I'm not talking from the Jewish side of things, but it's just no one even seems to bat an eyelash or to question it. Maybe we should take more time that when we have all of the goodies coming to us by way of the one and only God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he gives us everything and we have so much to be grateful for sustaining us and giving us all the goodies, we should stop to think, where is this coming from? Why is this happening? Who is supplying all of this? Why am I doing this? But to live life with our heads screwed on, with das and with seichel. People go trick-or-treating without even the slightest clue why. Mostly it just seems it's promoted by the candy companies to sell more candy. But for us Jews, it definitely seems like this weird, creepy night of October 31st may be a violation of the halacha, but I ain't a posek or a rabbi. But what we can say unequivocally, that there is a very valuable takeaway here. It is very possible for a human being to engage in a practice that he never understands or thinks about. And all the more so, if he is benefiting from it, if something good is happening, he may never stop to question why, how, what, when, or who is even supplying the goods. So, take a second to think about your actions. Thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu is supplying all the goodies, and live life with your head screwed on tight to your shoulders, using your das and using your seichel to connect all the more so to HaKadosh Baruch Hu.